Hi YouTube, this is Brendan with cosx Prep. What I have for you here is a video proving the trig identity 1 minus sine of x over cosine of x is equal to cosine of x over 1 plus sine of x. Now, in this particular problem, the two sides of the equation look very, very similar. And I can't really say that one is any more complicated than the other, so I'm just going to choose to work from one of them. I could just as easily work from the other side. I'm going to choose to work from the right side. So working from the right side here, I see this 1 plus sine of x, and that makes me think I need to multiply it by the conjugate. So the conjugate is any time you have a plus b, you multiply by a minus b. And I know to do this because 1 plus sine of x looks a little bit like that trig identity sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x equals 1. But it's missing the squares and maybe the sign in between the terms isn't quite correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by 1 minus sine of x over 1 minus sine of x. And when I do that, I'm going to find that my numerator just becomes cosine of x times 1 minus sine of x. I could choose to FOIL, but I'm going to elect not to here because I don't know that it's going to be helpful. And in the denominator, I will FOIL this out. I noticed that there's something about this, 1 plus something, 1 minus something, essentially the same thing, but the sign is different. Again, that's called the conjugate. And when you multiply conjugates, the middle terms cancel out. 1 times 1 is 1, minus sine of x, plus sine of x, minus sine squared of x. And since the middle terms cancel out, I can see that negative sine of x and sine of x cancel with each other. So then what I have is cosine of x times 1 minus sine of x over 1 minus sine squared of x. Well, 1 minus sine squared of x from the trig identity sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x is equal to 1. We can show that cosine squared of x is equal to 1 minus sine squared of x. And we do that just by subtracting the sine squared of x from both sides. Now, since 1 minus sine squared of x is equal to cosine squared of x, what that means is I can just change my denominator here from 1 minus sine squared of x, and I could simply say that this is cosine squared of x. Now I can cross cosine of x, and I can cross that 2 off, and what I end up with is 1 minus sine of x over cosine of x. And voila, we have proven that these two sides of the equation are equal to each other. Got a little bit lazy here in this one. I didn't write out all the steps in between. Depending on your teacher, they may be very particular about making you write this out every time or not. So be careful. Don't always pick up on my bad habits there. But anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope this really helped you figure out something about trig identities.